Hello there, and welcome to Dream Myths. Tonight, we'll join a night in a tent. But first, let's try and relax. Wherever you might be, find the most comfortable position you can. Just allow your body to settle naturally. Maybe feeling a mattress support you, a chair, or the cradle of the earth supporting you. Perhaps you feel your pillow welcoming your head, inviting it to release any tension it might be holding. Take a deep breath in through your nose, and then exhale, releasing any remaining tension in your body. Just let your breathing go back to its natural rhythm. Your chest rises and falls like gentle waves on a moonlit shore, carrying you deeper into tranquility with every breath. In this quiet moment, a sense of anticipation and mystery begins to weave its way into your mind, as if an important journey is about to begin. There's nothing you need to do now, except listen. With each breath, you can feel you're drifting into deeper comfort. Now, as I begin our tale, allow my voice to guide you through this journey as we discover what secrets await within the night's tent. Sir Thomas Hawthorne sat cross-legged in his small canvas tent, listening to the relentless drumming of rain overhead. Outside, thunder rolled across the darkened forest, momentarily drowning out the steady dripping that had begun to leak through a worn section of fabric near the tent's entrance. A flash of lightning briefly illuminated the cramped space, revealing his blood-stained armor piled in one corner, and his faithful warhorse, Galahad, peering in through the partially open tent flap. Water streamed from Galahad's dark mane. "At least one of us should stay dry," Thomas said, gesturing for the massive horse to remain outside, though he wished for the warmth of the animal's body. The knight clutched his side where a bandit's blade had slipped beneath his mail during the ambush hours earlier. The wound wasn't deep enough to be fatal, but in this weather, far from any village or keep, even minor injuries could turn dangerous. Another crack of thunder shook the forest. Galahad whinnied softly in response, pushing his muzzle further into the tent as if checking on his master's condition. As he did, his dark, intelligent eyes seemed to hold more than just concern for his master's wound. They held a deep, unsettling wariness, as though sensing a danger far more profound and unseen than the storm itself. It was a silent, primal warning that resonated with the ancient rhythms of the forest, hinting at a presence that had awakened with the deluge. "I'm fine, old friend," Thomas lied, arranging his meager possessions in the small, dry space. His sword lay within arm's reach, still smeared with the blood of the bandits who'd attacked him. Beside it, his shield bore a new dent where he had blocked a mace swing meant for his skull. The wound at his side throbbed in time with the hammering rain, each beat sending a fresh jolt of pain through his body. Thomas pressed a wadded section of his tunic against it, watching as the fabric slowly darkened. It wasn't enough to indicate a mortal injury, but he had seen too many men succumb to wounds far less severe. "A fine predicament we find ourselves in," he told Galahad, who continued to watch him with intelligent eyes that somehow managed to convey both concern and patience. Galahad then turned his head to look out into the storm before returning his gaze to Thomas. It was a gesture the knight had seen before. Usually when Galahad sensed something his human companion had missed. The warhorse's focus, Thomas realized with a jolt, was not just on him, but on something beyond the tense canvas, an unseen presence stirring in the heart of the tempest. "What is it? Do you hear something?" Thomas strained to listen, but could detect nothing over the constant drumming of rain and the periodic rumble of thunder. His most precious possession was the map entrusted to him by Brother Ambrose at the monastery, the very reason for his perilous journey. The parchment contained the locations of sacred sites that needed to be protected from the brewing war between rival lords. His charge was to deliver this knowledge to an abbey on the far side of the mountains. In the chaos following the ambush, with his companions scattered or fallen, he had lost his precise bearings. He had only a vague sense of his location, a densely forested area on the map's eastern edge. Yet, an instinct began to stir within him, a strange compulsion that whispered this was not a mere accident. It felt as though a force, older and more profound than the warring lords or the bandits, had guided him here to this specific place on this specific night of storm and shadow. It was as if destiny itself had a hand in his misdirection. The flash of pain reminded Thomas of his wound, and he fumbled for the bandages he kept tucked into his bedroll. His hand, however, closed around something else. A small glass vial he'd received 3 days earlier. It was from a peculiar traveler, a man in strange, moth-eaten robes, who spoke with the lilt of a different world. The traveler had called it a remedy for when the path grows dark and all other paths seem closed. Thomas, moved by an inexplicable impulse, had paid the last of his coin for it. The vial was curious, crafted from clear, flawless glass with a stopper of pale, unvarnished wood. Inside, a liquid the color of rich amber shifted and swirled, responding to the movement of his hand. It wasn't like any medicine or potion he had ever seen. Just then, Galahad pushed more forcefully against the tent, his head forcing its way inside, water dripping onto Thomas's bedroll. The horse's intelligent eyes, however, were not on Thomas, but on the vial in his hand, and he nudged the knight's arm as if in encouragement. The air grew heavy with anticipation. Thomas carefully uncorked the vial and sniffed its contents. The scent was of damp earth, crushed herbs, and something ancient and powerful, a fragrance that resonated with a forgotten time. A violent crack of thunder outside, accompanied by a firm, gentle push from Galahad, caused the vial to tip towards his lips. It was more than a coincidence. Thomas felt an invisible will, an ancient force working through the storm in his loyal steed. This was not merely a remedy, but a key to a door he didn't even know existed. With Galahad watching intently, Thomas drank the potion. A searing heat surged through him, burning like fire before spreading a peculiar, pleasant warmth. The throbbing pain in his side immediately dulled, replaced by a pleasant heaviness in his limbs. The ordinary interior of the tent seemed to sharpen, with every detail, the weave of the canvas, the grain of the wooden pole appearing in extraordinary focus. The oil lamp's flame, which had flickered weakly, now burned brighter, casting intricate patterns of shadow on the tent walls that seemed to writhe and dance like the symbols of an ancient, forgotten tongue. This light was not from the oil alone. It was a magical illumination, revealing not just the tent, but the very fabric of his reality, casting its glow not only on the physical world, but also on his very soul. Thomas watched with wide-eyed wonder as the ink on the map began to move. What had been static lines and simple symbols now shifted and swirled like liquid mercury, rearranging themselves with an uncanny intelligence. New paths and markings emerged, a secret cartography overlaying the known world. He understood their meaning instinctively, a profound gnosis bypassing the need for language. The map was no longer a mere guide, but a living document, a testament to ancient powers and sacred places. The most prominent new marking was a circle of standing stones located just a few leagues to the east, in a valley he had intended to bypass. Galahad whinnied loudly, his head pushing back into the tent, his eyes fixed on the transformed map, seemed to understand the gravity of the change. Locking onto the stone circle with an intense, unwavering focus, Thomas realized with a jolt of awe that the map was not simply revealing a location. It was a living entity, a conduit of a forgotten consciousness, inviting him to a preordained rendezvous with the past, a meeting that both he and Galahad were destined to attend. This was more than coincidence. It was a symphony of fate. Galahad, with an intuition that had saved Thomas's life on countless occasions, seemed to affirm the map's revelations. The night was torn, his sworn duty to the abbey clashing with the powerful, almost physical pull of the stone circle. The traveler's words echoed in his mind, a remedy for when all other paths seem closed. He now understood their true meaning. His wound, the storm, and the transformative map were not just obstacles but signposts, each one pointing to the stones. This was no longer a choice between two paths, but a singular, fated journey. The stone circle wasn't a detour. It was the only way for him to survive and fulfill a destiny far greater than merely delivering a parchment. This was his absolution, the genesis of a new legend. The map, in its final, dazzling act, began to fade, but the image of the standing stones was seared into his mind, an indelible truth waiting to be discovered. As the last of the newfound markings began to fade, the intricate web of symbols slowly dissolved, leaving the map looking ordinary once more. Only the circle of standing stones remained for a moment longer, a ghostly beacon of what had been revealed before it, too, vanished, leaving behind only the original, simple parchment. Thomas carefully rolled the map and tucked it securely into his tunic, the paper now feeling heavier, imbued with a knowledge that existed beyond its physical form. The immediate effects of the potion began to wane, a subtle retreat of the strange warmth in his limbs. The ache in his wound returned, but it was now a dull throb, a manageable reminder of his predicament, no longer a searing pain. He looked at Galahad, whose head was now completely inside the tent, standing watch. "We'll rest here tonight, old friend," Thomas said softly. "And in the morning, should the storm break, we will seek out this circle of stone." The warhorse, with a silent, knowing look, shifted and settled near the entrance, offering a comforting presence. Thomas lay down, his mind still reeling. He felt an undeniable, profound connection to Galahad, a bond that transcended the simple relationship of a knight and his steed. It was a kinship of two souls, linked by a shared destiny, forged in the crucible of the storm and the magic they had just witnessed. As he drifted towards sleep, the sound of the thunder seemed to change. It was no longer just the roar of a storm, but held within it the faint echo of ancient voices, a forgotten language that he did not understand, yet somehow recognized as a truth that had always been a part of him. His last conscious thought was of Galahad standing guard, and the silent sentinels of stone waiting patiently in the darkness. Thomas awoke, not to the drumming of rain, but to a profound and unsettling silence. Soft, gentle light filtered through the canvas of the tent. His wound throbbed, with a dull, manageable ache, and he was surprised to find the bleeding had stopped completely. He unrolled the map, which now appeared perfectly ordinary, its simple lines showing only the familiar landmarks. He wondered if the night had been a fever dream, a hallucination born of pain and desperation. Yet, the memory of the transformed map and the pulsing stone circle was vivid and compelling, a truth seared into his mind that no ordinary parchment could erase. Outside, Galahad nickered softly, his shadow falling across the tent. The warhorse stood waiting, his head turned resolutely to the east, towards the hidden valley where the stones awaited. It was in that moment of silent affirmation that Thomas realized the true nature of his mission. His oath to the Abbey was not his ultimate purpose. It was a stepping stone. His true calling was to become a guardian of a truth older than the church itself, a knowledge long forgotten and left to fade into myth. The stone circle was not a detour from his path, but the very path he was meant to walk, a rite of passage to a new role in a world on the cusp of profound change. He made his decision. He would not travel to the Abbey. He would seek out the stones. He was guided by the unwavering conviction that the ancient power of the circle could not only heal his body, but also protect the fragile truths it held. With a renewed sense of purpose, he quickly folded the map and tucked it into his tunic. He then strapped on his sword belt and checked his provisions. He left the heavier parts of his armor behind, opting only for his mail shirt, knowing that speed and agility were more important for the journey to come. As he prepared to collapse the tent, he paused. This unremarkable patch of canvas had been more than just a shelter from the storm. It had been a sanctuary where the extraordinary had occurred. He smiled to himself, understanding that the journey had already changed him, transforming a simple night into a harbinger of a new age. This wasn't merely a quest for healing, but a pilgrimage of self-discovery. "Let's find this circle of stone," he said to Galahad, who lowered his head in what seemed to be an understanding bow. Together, they stepped out into the clean, quiet morning, ready to embark on a legendary journey guided by a vision, a potion, and the steadfast intuition of a loyal steed.